Welcome to this week's Kindness Cafe podcast. Grab a cup of coffee, tea, or your favorite snack, relax, and join us for another uplifting story. I am Seema Raj, your host. Life taught him to be a fighter and to live life to the fullest at a very young age. A health crisis in his life was also the beginning of his kindness journey. And today, he is determined to make a difference, not only in his life, but other people's lives as well. Let's meet our guest today, Ashwani Jain. His name may ring a bell for many of you, as he just ran for Maryland's governor's seat last month. Hey, Ashwani, thank you so much for joining me on Kindness Cafe today.
Thank you so much for having me, Seema.
Today, Ashwani, you're living a healthy, active life, but at the age of 13, your world was turned upside down.
I was definitely very young. So at 13, I was in the middle of 8th grade, and I was diagnosed with cancer. During that time, I really did not think I would get to leave the four walls of that hospital room. Wow. And I had no control over my life, right? I was told, when to wake up, when to sleep, what to eat, what medicines to take. I lost all my hair and my confidence. And I really felt depressed. I felt suicidal, and I felt helpless. Yeah. So in addition to the physical pain that I was going through, I also went through a lot of emotional and mental pain as well. Mm-hmm. Because at the end of the day, it hurt to have other people who were making decisions for me instead of with me. Right? Yes. It made me feel very powerless.
Yes.
And so, I luckily found the tumor at a very early stage. I had to go through 4 months of chemotherapy. I was treated at Children's Hospital in D.C. But then at the end of my treatments, and once I was officially cancer-free, I actually had an introduction to an organization called the Make-A-Wish Foundation.
Right.
And so Make-A-Wish, if you're not familiar, it's an organization that...
Yep.
Yeah, so they do a lot of amazing work and really gave me hope when I felt hopeless and allowed me to have any wish that I wanted.
Yeah.
And my wish was to meet Denzel Washington, which was amazing. And
my favorite actor.
yeah, he's still the best.
Yeah.
And so, we got to meet him. And when I say we, meaning my family and myself. Yeah. And that was the first moment in that dark time when I saw something positive come out of all the negativity.
Yes.
And I felt empowered that, hey, maybe I can replicate this feeling of joy and empowerment to not just my family, but maybe to other kids and other families around my community that are going through something similar. So then I turned from a Make-A-Wish kid to a Make-A-Wish ambassador. And that was kind of my first official entryway into what I call public service.
Wow. There's your kindness journey right there. That's your kindness journey right there.
Yeah.
Well, amazing. And that too at the age of 13 when you're just turning into a teenager. That's hard enough as it is, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, right. Those are difficult ages for anyone and for everyone. Mm-hmm. And then you add into this a life-threatening medical condition. Yeah. It definitely changes everything. But I think it's the reason I'm the person that I am today. It taught me a lot about resiliency and empathy and the fact that also you have to appreciate every day because nothing is guaranteed for anybody.
So true. Yeah. What kind of cancer did you have, if you don't mind me asking?
Of course. No, please ask away. I had non-Hodgkin's lymphoma.
Okay. And you've been cancer-free all these years?
I have been, yeah. Fortunately, I've been very, very blessed and very lucky to say that, after my cancer treatments were done, I've been cancer-free ever since I was 13.
Wonderful. And that must have been so hard on your family. I mean, because, I'm a parent, and just for a child to suffer that much, your world is upside down.
Yeah, I mean, it really was, right? A lot of times, and I work right now at a healthcare nonprofit, so, I see this also with other families, but, whenever someone is diagnosed with cancer or any kind of illness, right, the patient goes through something, but then also their family goes through a lot as well, and they're often forgotten about. My parents, thought they were going to lose their son, and my sister thought she was going to lose her older brother, and so there was a lot of emotional pain, but I also think that was a defining moment because it brought our family even closer together. We were already close, but it definitely, made our bonds even stronger and knew that, we did have a support system. We were lucky enough to be there for each other and then kind of go through it, one step at a time.
Yeah, absolutely. And since then, have you been part of the Make-A-Wish Foundation since then?
Yeah, I've never left. I often, help them at events. I MC their galas. I do as much as I can for them, and I grant wishes for other kids in the Maryland area who are going through something, and I help grant their wish and be a part of the volunteer team to help with that.
That's so wonderful. And so what made you decide to run for governor? That's a big
Honestly,
step.
it was this idea of how do we make politics inclusive and accessible? Because I know what it feels like to not have a seat at the table when decisions about my life are being made. And I, spent 10 years working for President Obama on his campaigns, in his White House, in 2 federal agencies. So I understand how to work in big bureaucracies at all levels of government on policies as well. And the position of governor really in our state is one that you can make such a big impact in terms of engaging communities, impacting policies, enforcing them equitably. And then there also happened to be a completely open and vacant seat. So using all of my professional but also personal experiences, tying it in together, and politics is kind of my love and my hobby, my passion, my calling in life. And so that's when I decided to run, and I launched my campaign a year and a half ago, and we had a great year and a half long campaign.
Wow. And you have a degree in political science, is that correct?
So in undergrad, I got 2 degrees. One was in business management, and then the other one was in political science. And then I got my master's in political management.
Okay. And so what were some of those issues? So you've always had this thing, to make your issues heard and stuff. And as a community member, what were some of those issues that you wanted our government to address that made you get involved more?
I mean, honestly, it's everything, right? It is not only looking at every issue in a comprehensive way, because I think a lot of times, politics impacts everyone's life, whether you're engaged or not. And whether you're talking about our school systems, whether you're talking about traffic, whether you're talking about the criminal justice system, mental health, housing, you name it, I think a lot of times candidates or politicians only looked at issues in silos, when the reality is they are all interconnected and need to be addressed sustainably and at the same time. So I knew that I had the solutions for it, and that's, our campaign was really focused on that. But more than any specific policy, it's understanding that we need to get money out of politics, and that residents, real people who are impacted by these decisions, who may not care about politics, may not know how to get involved, that they are given enough respect to have a seat at the table, help make policy, and actually be a partner in the political process. And that's why we created the first and only statewide campaign in America that was 100% run by residents from every age, every background, and then all 24 counties in the state of Maryland.
And you made public appearances to all 24 counties, didn't you?
I'm proud to say that I was the only governor candidate that personally and consistently spent all of my days visiting a different county every day of the week, not including all of my 750 volunteers. Just myself alone, I knocked on more than 35,000 doors across the state, which is more than any other statewide candidate has ever done in the state of Maryland.
Which is amazing. And you did not have any fundraisers. How did you do all this? Because we've never heard of that before.
So we still had people who were willing to donate to our campaign, but we didn't make it a mandatory requirement in order to meet me or hear me or see me. So we didn't host a single fundraiser, and we didn't take a single penny from developers, businesses, PACs, or polluters. But the way we were able to run a very successful campaign is by empowering residents, by actually making sure that whether you are a middle schooler, a high schooler, a college student, or someone who is retired, or someone who's 94, 95 years old, if you have a policy idea, if you have a recommendation, if you have thoughts or opinions that you can, number one, very, very easily get a hold of me as a candidate for governor. Number two, actually make your voice heard and work with me when we're creating policy or creating strategy. And then number three, making sure that we focus so much on recruiting volunteers and showing up to parts of our state that candidates never show up to actually make them feel not only respected and heard, but also involved and engaged in the process in a very easy manner. So that's how we were able to do it. And my hope is that this framework and blueprint that we created on my campaign can now be used to change politics for generations to come by any candidate or anyone who wants to make an impact in their community and, doesn't now have to just focus on fundraising or having the right connections to do so.
That's exactly it. I mean, all this time that you've spent with these people, really focusing on the things that you really want for them, for people to carry on. I mean, that's a win-win situation. And what would you say? I mean, here you were. You didn't know all your volunteers at that point when you started, or all of these people that supported you. It must feel really good to look out there and say, you know what? People are listening to me. They want to do what I want to do. What was that like, just having that following? It's pretty impressive.
I mean, it took a lot of work.
Yes.
I started my campaign with only 5 volunteers, and I grew that from 5 volunteers to over 750. And the way I was able to do that is by, yes, having my own platform and set of ideas that I started with, but then being very open to actually listening to feedback and having conversations. It takes a lot of time to go door to door, to visit all 24 counties in a state, to actually have deeper conversations and not just, I meet you and I say, okay, I met you now. I'm running for governor, Seema. I need you to give me money now. Mm-hmm. No, instead of that, I said, okay, Seema, what do you care about? What are the issues that are important to you? Do you have any solutions? Or if you had a magic wand, were there things that you hope could be solved or could be done? And then incorporating you in my team and say, okay, you know what? With no time commitment, no financial commitment, you get to be a part of my team and just share ideas and advice whenever you have it. And I had these kind of conversations with every single person that I interacted with, whether they were a volunteer or just a voter or even someone who may have been supporting another candidate, but just having the conversations. And ironically, that turned out strategically to be great because then it allowed our campaign to grow even more organically and more sustainably, and then allowed us to have a lot of electoral success as well.
Yeah. And did you know any of the candidates that were running before the campaign started? Did you know them personally?
I mean, I knew, there were at the end of the day, there were about 10 official candidates, and I knew 7 of them, not personally, but, they're all quote unquote big shots, right? These are people who have been in elected office, in the public life for decades.
Yes.
And so I had definitely known about them before. I respected every one of them. But I didn't have a personal relationship with any of them until after we launched our campaign. And the nice thing is, everyone was super respectful, and I definitely had to earn their respect along the way, including with party leaders who, a lot of them kept telling me, you're just a kid, wait your turn in line, you're too ambitious, you're not doing it the quote-unquote right way, and you got to be fundraising only, and you got to focus on the traditional way of doing politics. But I kept showing up, I outworked everyone, I knew my policies, I performed well in debates, and I let the work speak for itself. And then once these candidates and the party members saw that, hey, this guy actually knows what he's doing, he has a big following, and he really is doing something in a sincere and positive way, then they started to actually respect me and provide me an even bigger seat at the table. So I knew that I had to earn the respect, and I knew I had to outwork. But these are all people that have done great things, and I just wanted to make sure we brought a different perspective to the table.
Yeah. So I have a 2-part question. So how did you think this was going to end up for you going into it? And were you happy at the outcome? Like, was it more than you expected, the fan following and, just knowing that you have supporters out there? Just tell me how you feel.
Yeah, I mean, listen, whenever anyone starts any venture, right, whether it's a business, whether it's, you're trying to get into med school, law school, if you're running a campaign, I mean, any sort of entity or thing that you do with your entire heart and soul and you put all the resources in, if it doesn't end exactly how you want it to, it's going to hurt a little bit, right? I did not run a campaign the way I did to lose. I genuinely felt that we were going to come in first place. So naturally that we did not come in first place, obviously it hurts. But what I've also learned is just because one door closes, it doesn't mean it's the end. Not coming in first place does not mean that you were a failure. And you have to kind of look at, okay, did you actually accomplish the other things you wanted to accomplish? In addition to coming in first place, I wanted to change the game forever. I wanted to actually make politics inclusive and accessible. I wanted to build the largest grassroots campaign that our state has seen. And I wanted to show what can be possible if you focus on policy and showing up and engaging residents as opposed to fundraising. And all of those things we did accomplish. And now we have a seat at the table with the party, with the new candidate who won and his hopeful administration, that we're now being taken more seriously. And the values that we have are being taken more seriously. And that blueprint we created is now there in stone for anyone and everyone else around the country who wants to change the system for the better also. So in that aspect, I'm very proud. I'm very humbled. It is nice that there are a lot more people who understand and resonate with this message than I had maybe thought when I first launched the campaign. But it's, changing a system is not going to happen overnight. It takes a long time and a long process. It's just kind of taking it one day at a time from there.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And so what's your next steps? Do you think you're ever going to run for governor again? I know you want to work with the new governor, hopefully coming up, and help him with his campaign. But down the road, maybe 8 years down the road, 4 years down the road, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm always someone who takes things that are just right in front of me and don't try to think too far ahead, because I think, number one, if you think too far ahead or you plan out, I'm going to run for this, run for that, ego gets in the way and you lose the actual public service and selflessness that I think politics deserves and needs. And number two, as we mentioned with my cancer struggles and journey, nothing is predicted, right? No one knows what tomorrow is going to bring. And so it's, in my opinion, it's kind of pointless to plan ahead because nobody knows anything, right? So all you can do is whatever opportunity is right in front of you, just focus on that and do it selflessly, do it with humility, and try to make the best impact you can. So I'm still at my day job, which is at the National Kindi Foundation. I'm their program director. I never left. I was doing that even during the campaign trail. So I'm back to work, and I am just telling the Maryland Democratic Party and then Wes Moore, who is the Democratic nominee, and his running mate, Aruna Miller, that I am here to be of service, and I'm trying to use the resources I have to help them and support their efforts so that they win in November, that the values and policies that I was advocating for and working on actually get implemented. If that means working for their administration, if I can be of service in that way to them, I would be honored to have that opportunity. But I also know, it's just taking one step at a time, and there are many, many avenues to continue making an impact and making a difference.
If you had one message to give to our listeners today, Ashwini, what would it be?
Really, it's to find something that you're passionate about, figure out what you want to do, not what you want to be, and then go for it. And don't let anyone else tell you no. There'll be a lot of times where naysayers or even your own fears and doubts can kind of cloud the journey. But if you do your homework and do things with sincerity and with clear intention, then you would be surprised by what you can accomplish and how fulfilling that journey would be.
And Ashwini, if any of our listeners want to contact you, what is the best way for them to do that?
So I'm really active on social media. Anyone can find me at _Ashwani Jain on Twitter or Instagram or on Facebook as well.
Perfect. Great. So listeners out there, if you guys have any issues that you want to address, you can contact him on those addresses. And Ashwini, I just cannot thank you enough for being on my podcast today. You are truly a role model for many people out there who may need strength and motivation at this time. We never know what's going on in someone else's life. And also to teach us the great lesson of life. That is that life is unpredictable, so live each day to the fullest and try to reach for the stars, because you can do it. So may God bless you always on your kindness journey and give you a happy and healthy life.
Thank you so very much.
You are so welcome, and thanks again. And with that, I want to thank all of our listeners for joining us today. Join us next time for another inspirational journey. Until then, stay safe, healthy, and remember, living is giving.